ixesha lisondele, unity maqabane, amandla, viva Cosatu, viva, viva SACP, viva, viva Sanko, viva, viva African National Congress, viva. Long live the spirit of Nelson Mandela, long live. Long live the spirit of Mama Albertina Sisulu, long live. Amandla. Long live the spirit of Elijah Bakhai, long live. Long live the spirit of Comrade Gomomo, long live. Long live the spirit of Comrade Chris Dlamini, long live. Amandla. Comrades, I thank you for this opportunity. Comrade President Stu Dlamini, President of Cosatu, General Secretary Begi Njalinjali, the National Office Bearers of the Congress of South African Trade Unions, and members of Cosatu's Central Executive Committee, and the leadership of all the affiliated unions to Cosatu. I also extend my greetings to the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party and other leaders of the SACP, the leadership of the African National Congress is here in its biggest number, led by the Deputy President, the Secretary General, the Deputy Secretary General, the National Chairperson, and the Treasurer General, and members of the National Executive Committee. If you ever wanted a decision from the National Working Committee of the ANC, it can be taken now. They are all here. Distinguished guests and leaders and delegates from various associations and organizations and trade unions internationally, and comrades and delegates. Comrades, it gives me pleasure to extend revolutionary greetings from the leadership and membership of the African National Congress to this, the 13th National Congress of the Congress of South African Trade Unions. You have survived to hold your 13th Congress. You can give yourself a great round of applause for that. It is indeed an honor to be here. Exactly 9 months ago, but maybe before I even start, as I was coming in, I walked past the delegation of Nehau. They immediately recognized that I am wearing a leather lumber jacket with a Nehau logo. They got very excited. Let me say that underneath, I am wearing a Cosatu t-shirt. But underneath, I am wearing an ANC vest. But let me say, because today is Monday, on Monday I usually wear a Nehau lumber jacket. On Tuesday, I wear a Dinosa one. On Wednesday, I wear NUM. On Thursday, I wear Pop Crew. So throughout, I keep changing. So I want the Nehau comrades to know that it's a Monday wear. And on other days, I wear the clothing from other unions. So that's why all the unions in Cosatu are very special. to me as well. Comrades, exactly 9 months ago, the ANC held its 54th National Conference in Johannesburg at Nasrec. In many ways, that conference was what you would call a watershed conference, where the movement acknowledged that its unity, its integrity, its capacity and credibility had been severely eroded over several years. The then Secretary General's report was quite expansive about the many challenges that our movement was facing. The ANC was brutally honest, as it always is, brutally direct and straightforward, and said that it needed, conference said that it needed to address all those challenges. And the 54th conference then took clear, revolutionary and unequivocal decisions to stop the decline of our movement and to take bold steps to build unity, to renew the movement, and to reposition the African National Congress for the tasks that lie ahead. As a trusted and consistent ally, Cosatu made a valuable contribution to the success of the conference, understanding that only a united and effective and progressive ANC can serve the interests of the workers and all the people of our country. The aftermath of the conference ushered in a new mood of optimism throughout the country as people from all walks of life renewed their hope in the African National Congress. We've been working together since then to reaffirm the ANC as a true representative of the aspirations of our people, capable of fundamentally transforming their lives for the better. In working together, we have found that a number of initiatives are initiatives that our people are responding positively to in this new period that we are in, including the Tumamina campaign, which has captivated the attention of the majority of our people. Our structures are using this campaign to speed up service delivery in our communities. They are using this campaign to reconnect with our communities and to listen and address the challenges and the problems that our people are facing. It has become quite an effective campaign, and we are particularly pleased that Cosatu members and Cosatu structures have also taken to this campaign and are also utilizing it to also help in addressing the challenges that our people face in various communities. And we say thank you for that. As we make all these efforts of working together to address unemployment, poverty, and inequality, we are having to do so, comrades, under very difficult economic conditions. We are all aware that the economic challenges that our country faces have their roots in the structure of our economy. Millions of our people are excluded from meaningful participation in the economy for a whole number of reasons. And some of those have to do with lack of skills, opportunities, access, lack of finance, lack of various important assets, some of which have to do with land or lack of access to land. Most people live far from economic centers and other amenities, increasing the cost of living and lowering their own quality of life. Our economy, as we all know, comrades, is far too dependent on the export of primary goods like minerals and agricultural products, which means that we are not extracting the full economic value of our mineral resources and are missing out on creating millions of potential jobs that can be created if we were able to add value to the products that we just keep exporting out of the country. The work we are doing to address these structural problems are hampered by the turbulence in the global economy, where a trade war between the major economies is starting to have an impact on our own country, as well as various industries, leading to a number of jobs being shared. The exit of Britain from the EU is also likely to affect our own economy as well. Global oil prices have risen and the rand has weakened as concerns have grown about some other developing economies that are having to grapple with their own challenges that have to do with their own currencies and various other problems that they face. As a country, we are emerging from nearly a decade of poor economic performance. Public finances are under great strain, and our public debt has grown exponentially as well as dramatically. And servicing this public debt is bringing down quite a heavy burden on our own public finances. The effects of state capture have been felt across several state-owned enterprises and important public institutions as well. Due to a combination of these global and local factors, in recent months, unemployment has worsened, economic growth has slowed further, and the cost of living has increased for millions of our people. And it is the workers and the poor who are affected adversely by increases in the price of fuel, in the price of food and other essentials. We are aware of the position adopted by our allies and indeed other formations on the issue of VAT and have heeded the call that we should see how we can best ameliorate the challenges our people are facing given the rise of VAT, which in many ways was unavoidable as we had to fund a new cost line, which is giving our young people and our children free education at a higher level. To ensure that VAT increase does not place an undue burden on the poor, government set up an independent panel of experts to review the current list of zero-rated VAT items. The panel submitted their report last month, as we all know, which recommended that a number of items be included in the basket of zero-rated goods. The Minister of Finance is currently considering the panel's recommendations, and the public comments that have been received are being considered at the moment. The decision on which items to zero rate will be included in our current or future tax legislation for consideration by Parliament. Working people, we know, are most vulnerable to job losses and efforts by employers to reduce costs. In our recent meeting with business, we called upon them not to be too hasty to retrench workers, particularly in these difficult economic conditions. We also said that they should, in these trying economic conditions, try everything they can to avoid retrenchments and, in a way, put a moratorium on retrenchment so that we can rise from these challenging economic conditions. And we have said that they should also consider retraining workers and find alternative pathways for them in the event of the inevitability of job losses. As the country has entered a technical recession, comrades, following the 2 quarters of negative growth, we are focusing our attention on how we can address the economic challenges that we face and come up with initiatives to save jobs and to create new jobs. In the coming days, government will come up with measures that will lead to the reprioritization of government spending within the current and existing fiscal framework towards activities that will stimulate economic activity. We will also come up with measures to increase investment in infrastructure so that we can continue to build roads. Many of you will recall that leading up to 2010, our infrastructure build program reached a very high point where there were cranes and yellow equipment all over the country working to create infrastructure facilities. Now that has tapered off. We've seen construction companies going bust and workers being retrenched. We've seen a decline in infrastructure build, and this is an area that we believe we should focus on, because with infrastructure build, we find and always find that it begins to spawn a number of other economic activities that create jobs. So we want to go back to that moment where we were able to build roads, we were able to construct rail lines and ports, where we were able to build schools in large numbers, clinics, hospitals and colleges. And this we would like to do through an infrastructure build program which we will resuscitate leading into the coming years. Focus on infrastructure will boost economic activity, but it will also improve service delivery in a number of communities where our people live. The measures will include a set of economic reforms covering issues such as mining, dealing with the mining charter, as Comrade President Stu Motlamini was saying, in telecommunications, where we deal with the issues of the spectrum, with tourism, where we open up the country to invite more and more tourists and enable them to come to our country, leading to the creation of more jobs. And where we will also focus on transport, where we ensure that the transport that should be made available makes it cheaper and easier for working people to get to their workstations. This will remove blockages to growth in those important growth sectors and improve investor confidence. These, comrades, are necessary steps and immediate responses that we would like to make to the current challenges that we face. We've taken the view that with the economic challenges that we face, given rise to by these 2 quarters of low growth or negative growth, government cannot sit by and not do anything. So we will be seeking then to focus attention on ensuring that we improve agriculture, focus on agriculture, and enable our people, our compatriots who are involved in agriculture, particularly emerging farmers, are able to get the support that they need, because agriculture has shown in the past to be a great job creator and to be a good contributor to the growth of our economy. So we'll be focusing on that. We'll also be focusing on the township economy, and we'll also be focusing on small and medium enterprises. With all these policy initiatives, as well as other measures that we will take, we're hoping that we should be able to re-crank the economy back into better activity. This builds on work, comrades, already underway and establishes a platform for sustainable and inclusive growth into the future. It is because of the urgency of addressing these challenges that as social partners, we are also finalizing another important initiative that you as Cosatu have called for, that we should have a job summit where all the social partners will come to the fore and talk about how we are going to create jobs. Because the 54th conference of the African National Congress focused largely on jobs and jobs and jobs. And this is part of the program that we are involved in to ensure that we create jobs. The summit, the job summit, will agree on concrete and specific interventions to drive job creation and to ensure also job retention. Because it is one thing to create jobs, but at the same time, we strongly believe that we should be able to retain the jobs that our people are involved in right at the moment. Under the auspices of NEDLAC, government, labor, business and communities have been debating a range of proposals. Truth be told, comrades, there are some difficult discussions that we still need to have to ensure that the summit has a meaningful impact on unemployment, and that there is still much work to be done, but we are confident that when we do finally get to the job summit, we will be able to have good proposals. And this places a responsibility on Cosatu, and indeed on this Congress, to come up with proposals on how we can create jobs going forward. The trade union movement is expected to put clear proposals, effective proposals indeed, on how we can create jobs under these testing and trying economic moments that we are living under. So this Congress is being held at a most opportune time, where we are required to come up with really cutting-edge and clever proposals on how our economy can create jobs. And comrades, it is in this regard that we would like you, yes, as Cosatu, to come up with proposals on how we deal with the structure of our economy. As we have said, some of the challenges that we face have their origins and roots in the structure of our economy. We therefore want Cosatu to come up with clear proposals on how we move forward. If there ever was a time when Cosatu should come to the place, when Cosatu should come up with clear proposals, this is the time. Your hour has arrived, Cosatu. Put proposals on the table. On the issue of broader economic transformation, while our immediate efforts are focused on reviving the economy and increasing investment and preserving and creating jobs, we know that the overriding task we have is to, yes, fundamentally transform our economy and our society. As alliance partners, we are guided by the vision which our forebears set out in the Freedom Charter, that the people shall share in the wealth of our country. The equitable society within the broader ambit of the democratic society that we wish to create means that there should be decent work for all and that there should be radical economic transformation. The 54th National Conference of the ANC reaffirmed that what we are really striving for is an economy that is inclusive within the realms of a mixed economy, and with the state continuing to play a key role in the ownership of state-owned enterprises, enterprises that should drive economic growth and deliver a better life for our people. But we are also seeking the type of economy where there are cooperatives and other forms of social ownership as well as private capital. At the same time, we also need, comrades, a capable state which is developmental in its characteristics, which also plays a critical interventionist role in the economy and leads the country to development. A necessary condition for sustainable, inclusive growth is a significant increase in the level of investment in the economy from both the public as well as the private sector. And it is in this regard that we are seeking to raise 1.4 trillion rand to be invested in our economy, in various sectors of our economy in the next 5 years. We want to raise this amount of money so that we can have the capacity and capability to build factories, to build refineries, to build power plants, more mines and more smelters, and to put in place pipelines and data centers and just increase the growth of our economy and the size of the economy. And this is now the time for us as social partners to give real, meaningful attention to also increasing an area which we've been touching on briefly and leaving, an area of increased worker ownership in the enterprises that the workers work for. This I want to throw as a challenge to this Congress, that do look at the issue of worker ownership. And it should be an issue that you as workers drive, and it should not be driven by employers. But there's another aspect to this. Another aspect is, as unions, we need to get involved in the decision-making processes of the companies that we work for. I think we should forego the days when company directors who are not connected to the lives and the needs of workers decide on the direction, on the future of companies that you work for. We need to get involved. Yes, on the shop floor, in the boardroom, on management structures of the companies that we work for. And I know in Cosatu there is a fear about getting involved in the decision-making of companies. And I say, comrades, let's grow up. Let us get involved in the direction of our companies. Let us get involved in how those companies are run. As it is now, you've even set up trade union companies where some of your representatives get involved. What about getting involved in the companies that have an impact on the life work of workers that you represent? There is a growing consensus in society that we must take bold steps to end the economic exclusion of the majority of our people. Amongst others, is to try and address the one issue which has led to the exclusion of our people, and which is on land, the land of our forefathers and our foremothers. This is another area where we need to focus our attention on. The resolution of the 54th conference of the ANC decided that there should be expropriation of land without compensation, and this should take place without any fail. And it is going to happen because that is a decision of our conference. We want to utilize this as one of the comprehensive measures to accelerate land reform that will reduce poverty, that will strengthen the economy and increase agricultural output. And for those who think that this program of land reform means that we are going to give land to the elite, I want to make it very clear that our land reform program is not about giving land to the elite. It is about giving land to the ordinary people in our country, and not the chosen few. We also, as we address issues of the growth in our economy, need to address the issue of the glaring skills deficit. We are encouraged by the massive expansion of early childhood development, by the nearly universal access to basic education, and by the huge increase in university enrollment and colleges enrollment. These developments, taken together with an improvement in the quality and relevance of what is taught, will significantly reduce poverty and inequality in years to come. However, we need to dedicate greater attention to providing skills, work experience, to those who are already in the workforce, both employed and unemployed. If we are to have a skills revolution, which is precisely what our country needs, we need to increase the pace as well as the scale of in-service training. We need to increase apprenticeships, internships, and work experience programs. From its formation, Cosatu has led the struggle for effective worker education that improves the capability and opportunities of workers while contributing to greater productivity. This is the task that business, government, and labor needs to prioritize. And as we do so, we must ensure that we are prepared for the profound changes that will alter the nature of work in the coming decades. Comrades, this conference also needs to deal with the changing patterns of work. The world of work is changing. At the ILO level, there's a commission that was set up to look at how work has been changing and how this process of work that is changing is dislodging so many working people in the world. This gives rise to both opportunities and challenges. Technological change will lead to the destruction of certain types of jobs and the creation of others. It will change the way work is organized, with a sharing economy leading to new arrangements between those who work and those who own work platforms. While technology will lead to reallocation of tasks between humans and machines, it also offers innovation and flexibility. Learning and work will become more closely intertwined over a lifetime. So this Congress needs to focus on this issue of work, because in the end, those who are most affected are the working people in our country. We will need to develop a social compact of the future of work to ensure that our response is guided by principles of social justice and equality. And this is where we are called upon to come up with working and workable proposals and solutions on how we address the world of work as it changes, as machines begin to replace human beings, and as technology, particularly the fourth industrial revolution, as it comes towards us, Cosatu and working organizations must have a response. And this is what this conference must also address itself to. One of the most immediate and difficult challenges that now confronts us is how the public service is structured. Many of your unions, many of COSATU affiliates have organized workers in the public service. We now need, as a federation, to begin to look at the public service, how it is structured, but we also need to look at another challenge that we have, the significant growth of the public service wage bill. In the context of slow economic growth and weak revenue collection, this means that expenditure on other critical things like infrastructure has declined, as I said. We need to address this in a way that does not put the livelihoods of public sector workers at risk with regard to their jobs. And as we have said before, and as we have issued statements before, I need to repeat it here. Government has no plans whatsoever to retrench 30,000 public service workers. There are no such plans because this has been peddled around. I can say without any equivocation that there are no such plans to retrench 30,000 workers. The mass retrenchment of public servants is not under consideration. On the reconfiguration of the state that we announced during the State of the Nation address, what we sought to do is that we are going to commence work on how the state is configured and how best we can make the state machinery much more efficient, much more effective, so that it can provide a service to our people as a whole. So I need to make it clear that that work is underway, and that work is going to look at how we have a state that is more functional, a state that operates well, that is a well-oiled machine. And we will be looking, yes, at various government departments and how those can be reconfigured to be able to serve our people effectively going forward. We do need, comrades, as an alliance, to have a thoroughgoing discussion on how we deal with the public sector wage bill, and the broader management of our public finances. We have fortunately agreed that the alliance should have this type of discussion. And this is the new practice that we are engendering in our alliance. We are effectively saying, comrades, we must be able to find time to discuss, yes, even difficult issues, where we come up with solutions. And the starting point of the discussions will be, how can we best come up with integrated solutions where we work together as an alliance to be able to address the challenges that we have. Over the last few years, we have experienced the devastating effect of state capture and corruption on economic growth and transformation. One of the most important outcomes of the ANC 54th Conference resolutions was a decision to eradicate corruption in all its manifestations and to support the establishment of a commission of inquiry into state capture. The commission, comrades, as we all know, has now started its work, and it is now looking at the full nature and extent of state capture. As a nation, we need to be clear about accountability and consequence management. This should happen without any doubt, and it should happen to ensure that those who are found to have stolen the public resources of our country that were meant for the poor must be prosecuted, and the stolen funds must be returned. That should happen, comrades, without any equivocation. Because we cannot afford to have a situation where billions and billions of rands are siphoned and stolen. Billions that were meant to go and fund programs that are meant to improve the lives of our people, and they finally get into the pockets of just a few people. That cannot be, and that cannot be allowed, comrades. And as we do this, it should never be heard that we are pursuing certain people on a prejudicial basis. This should be done on a no favor, no prejudice basis, where we just want to have justice for the people of South Africa. That is all. Now, we salute Cosatu for its consistent stand on state capture and corruption, and urge the Federation not to relent in its campaign to rid our country and the corporate sector of all corrupt elements. We call on those workers in the public sector who have borne witness, who have sat by and witnessed as the resources of our country were being looted, to come forward and participate in the Zondo Commission. This commission offers the nation the opportunity to get to the root of corruption, and it will help us to root out corruption, comrades. Despite the current difficulties, the workers of our country have, in recent times, achieved a number of important victories. President Dlamini spoke about another key victory that the workers of our country have achieved. Thanks to the tireless and determined campaign that was waged by Cosatu over many years, we will soon implement the country's first national minimum wage. And this is a victory for Cosatu. And you may not want to applaud yourself because some are accusing you of being neoliberal. You are revolutionaries to have had the country to embrace a national minimum wage for the very first time. You are revolutionaries, and you can applaud yourself for that, comrades. Even as you are weak in applauding yourself, ngiyanitshela ke ngoba kwangathi niyasaba, you are afraid to claim this victory. And I know that for a fact, because some in Cosatu were saying, no, I was deputy president then. They were saying, no, deputy president, makube uwe ozokhuluma ngayo, thina we won't talk about it. Because you were afraid. This is your victory. Claim it. Those who criticize you are criticizing you with nothing in hand. You have enabled, comrades, so that you are aware of what this is. You are going to be able to have 6.6 million workers in the Republic of South Africa to earn a wage that is not slavery. Some workers have been earning 500 rand a month, 1,000 rand a month, 2,000 rand a month. And those are workers that are not here. And in this regard, Cosatu has demonstrated that it is indeed the parliament of the workers of this country. And we thank you for that. So it is going to give me pleasure to sign this law, this bill into law. We are going to want to have an occasion as we sign this law because it is revolutionary. It is going to lift 6 million workers out of low wages. It is indeed a historic occasion and achievement, and we are going to want to celebrate it. There is another issue which is also important, which you as workers and as unions of Cosatu need to shine a torch on. That is the safety of workers in the workplace. We cannot have workplaces where workers go to die. We cannot have workplaces where workers end up in the mortuary. We must have safe working places, and it is Cosatu that must lead the charge. Recently, workers who are also working in government buildings have been killed, and Cosatu cannot allow this to happen. I urge you to take the issue of the safety of workers to be a serious matter. In government buildings, every government building must have a safety steward. And a full-time safety steward for that matter, somebody who looks after the safety of the people who work in every government building. Uma ningafuna ukwenza njalo, we will lead you in that process, because it is a very important one. In the mines, they have safety stewards, and we want those safety stewards in all those working places to make sure that we look after the safety of working people. We continue, comrades, to take steps to empower the youth of our country, and recently we introduced free higher education for children of the poor and working class, which seeks to ensure that no young person will be denied higher education due to financial constraints. The intervention will make an important contribution to reducing inequality and breaking intergenerational cycle of poverty. We are proceeding with our plans, comrades, to introduce the National Health Insurance, which will make decent health care accessible affordable to all South Africans. The NHI is here, comrades. It is going to be implemented, whether people like it or not. It is here to stay. Working conditions in the public health sector will improve with increased resources for personnel, infrastructure, equipment, medicines, and supply. As we re-engineer the primary health through the NHI, we will need more healthcare workers in order to make the workforce become more healthier and more productive. Government has set up a war room in the presidency that will oversee the implementation of the NHI and the improvement of health system. Comrades, we are seeking to stabilize a whole number of areas of South African life when it comes to safety and the rule of law. We are doing precisely that, and we are saying that it is the interest of the poor and the working class that we need to uphold the rule of law and maintain order and stability. This means, comrades, we should encourage and support peaceful protests, but we must do everything we can to prevent violent protests and the destruction of public property. There is no justification, comrades, for violent protests in a democratic society, and those who are involved in criminal acts should face the full might of the law. As social partners, we have reached important agreements on how to reduce the potential for violence in industrial action. But we need to remain vigilant as trade union leaders, as employers, as government and law enforcement agencies, and accept our collective and individual responsibilities to prevent violence during protests. As a progressive trade union movement, comrades, and as the leading representatives of workers in our country, Cosatu and its affiliates must promote the understanding that the right to protest cannot be elevated above the right to human dignity and human life. We cannot have Cosatu members, comrades, or any union who, when participating in industrial action, get involved in acts of pulling people out of operating hospital theaters, preventing the vital provision of services to the sick and the poor during strike action. And we call upon all workers to ensure that we respect each other's basic human rights and the rights of all who are involved in any endeavor. Comrades, the sights that we have seen at times when there has been industrial action by some of the members of our unions has not been pleasing to the eyes of all South Africans. And we cannot have a situation where when we protest, comrades, we put in danger the lives of even women who are in the process of giving birth. We cannot do so, and comrades, that should not be allowed. Ngiyacela, comrades, because none of us would ever want to have any one of our partners in the process of giving birth have that process interrupted, have them wheeled out of theater because we are involved in industrial action. We plead and we pray that what we have seen in the past should be something that we will never see again in our country. And I hope we pledge to that as members of Cosatu. Comrades, part of the theme of your conference is to deepen the Back to Basics campaign. As you deepen the Back to Basics campaign, it is essential that Cosatu, or this Congress, provides clear direction on how Cosatu will fulfill the important objective that it was set up for. That is the unity of the working class. It is also important in fulfillment of this objective that Cosatu ensures that it remains the preferred choice for union affiliation in a rapidly expanding and changing world of work. We must reaffirm the founding principle that Cosatu embraced right when it was formed, of one industry, one union, one country, one federation. That, comrades, needs to continue being subscribed to, because it is that will bring maximum unity amongst organized workers. Congress must agree on how each of those that who have left the federation, and those who are not part of Cosatu, can be drawn back into the federation. Now, a few years ago, you had a number of workers leaving Cosatu. And comrades, the challenge that the ANC wants to throw back at you is you need to come up with clear plans and strategies and proposals on how we can bring those workers back into Cosatu, because they belong in Cosatu. I know this may not be a popular view among some of you, but we want to see one country, one federation, and we want those workers in Cosatu. Workers, comrades, in South Africa are strongest and best served when they are organized around or under one united federation. In this regard, it is worth recalling the words of Isitwalandwe Oliver Reginald Tambo following the formation of Cosatu, when he said, "The struggle to form one democratic trade union center has been hard and protracted. Many comrades have spent countless hours working to achieve the result that was consummated with the formation of Cosatu. We all acted in this manner, convinced of the need for the unity of the working class in our country, of the imperative to defend and to advance the interests of this class, and the necessity for the organized, united, and conscious workers to remain in the front ranks and as an integral part of the mass army of the revolution. The formation of Cosatu, O.R. Tambo continued, has therefore added enormously to the strength of the democratic movement as a whole, and is a victory which this movement must defend at all costs." Close quotes. Now, as the ANC, we are steadfast in our support for Cosatu as a progressive and revolutionary movement dedicated to defend and to advance the interests of the working class. The ANC will never go back on our support for Cosatu. That is sacrosanct, and that is permanent and forever. You can bank on that. It will always be there. But we must also stand behind Cosatu and urge this revolutionary federation to move with determination to organize workers of South Africa into the ranks of Cosatu unions, so that the membership of Cosatu unions can grow. As it is now, comrades, we can only speak of 26% of workers who are organized in South Africa. Many of the workers, 74% of working people in our country, remain unorganized. And the challenge to you as this Congress is to come up with plans and strategies on how we can organize those 74% workers into this revolutionary federation called the Congress of South African Trade Unions. So Cosatu should never rest until the majority of workers are organized into unions. We must also call upon Cosatu to consolidate their own unity and safeguard the unity of workers in one union, in one industry, but the unions in Cosatu must also remain united. We also, comrades, as we do all this, need to recognize that the alliance has not been functioning as it should. There is much work that needs to be done to build the alliance as a fighting force for the poor and the working class. The crucial discussion around a reconfigured alliance is currently taking place in various corners, but we must bring all components of the alliance into this discussion. It will be important for this Congress to develop proposals on how the reconfigured alliance will function. We need to determine the nature and the extent of the participation of all alliance partners, yes, in decision-making, and how we manage the consultation process on strategic decisions that need to be taken. The ANC, the Alliance, and the Mass Democratic Movement as a whole will once again have to mobilize millions of our people to go and defend the gains of this hard-won democracy at the polls. We must prove to our people, comrades, in word and in deed, that the ANC remains the only organization capable of mobilizing the broad strata of our society for fundamental social transformation. At this time, we must focus all our efforts on the elections rather than expend our energy on divisions and pointless initiatives. Our people have always seen the ANC as their parliament, and they've also invested their hopes and aspirations in the African National Congress. And any attempt to weaken the ANC in whatever form, in whatever initiative, in whatever discussion that takes place, in whatever thing that we can do, upsets our people. We should always remember that as a parliament of our people look to the ANC to be a united organization, not to be an organization where the leadership is divided, where part of the leadership is pulling in one direction. Particularly after coming out of our conference, we must demonstrate that we are united. There should not be pulling in this way and in that direction. Our people want a united ANC. We need to be mindful that our people look at us and do not want a weak or divided ANC. We remain focused, comrades, on the task of renewal and unity, and always seek ways of forging unity and working together. And we continue to say, even those comrades who never loved one another, the moment that we are in now means that we must fall in love with each other and work together. That's what this moment requires. We must remember that united we stand and divided we fall, but we also fall into disarray. We should not spend time on counter-revolutionary machinations of weakening this African National Congress, where either in dark corners or wherever we come up with machinations of weakening the African National Congress. That must come to an end. Now, comrades, I'd like to say this now. If there is going to be any plot, it must be a plot to defeat poverty. That must be the type of plot that we want. It must be a plot to end poverty in our country. And if we are going to plan, let us plan the growth of our economy. Let us invest our energies in transforming the economy of our country and waste time playing marbles with the hopes of our people. That is what we should be doing. Now, comrades, now to achieve a decisive mandate for change, because, comrades, next year we are going to be facing one of the most challenging elections. Now, we cannot go to those elections divided. We cannot go to those elections with a divided leadership. We cannot go to those elections with a divided membership. And I say, if there are any moves to divide the membership of the ANC, that is counter-revolutionary. That is counter-revolutionary. Because our people are on a march. They are on a revolutionary march to go and win those elections. Just imagine, we are going to war. We are going to a war of all wars. And then we start fighting amongst ourselves. And we take guns and start shooting each other. What type of an army are we? A united army is an army that will go to war united. We must go to war united as one army. So, comrades, this is a call for unity. And I'd like to say, those who will get into actions that disunite our people, divide our people, must be exposed. They must be exposed so that we know them. We cannot afford to do this. And then you'll have to ask yourself, those who want to divide the ANC, what agenda are they serving? What mandate are they serving? Because coming out of Nazareth, we only know one agenda, and that is the agenda of unity and renewal and jobs and transforming our economy. Manje, lababanye, if they are working to divide the ANC, tell us what your agenda is. We cannot accept that. Comrades, and this unity must not simply exist for the elections. The unity we must forge. And comrades, when we go to these elections, and I'd like this Congress to discuss this, how all of us are going to make a contribution for a decisive victory. Cosatu has to be in the forefront of the campaign to make sure that we win the 2019 election. It must be at the forefront. We cannot have a Cosatu that is going to be a second-class player in these elections. We want Cosatu to be in the forefront and participate. So, comrades, we have to work together. We have to ensure that even as we finalize our manifesto, that manifesto must represent the aspirations and the hopes of working people in our country. We want you to participate and make sure that that manifesto that we're going to come up with, when we launch that manifesto, it must be a manifesto that all of us own. Comrades, we have embarked on a new path of recovery. We must take decisive steps to address our challenges, and part of our challenges is to make sure that we forge this unity. And let me say, comrades, coming out of Nazareth, yes, we were divided. And a number of our structures that you also participate in our various provinces, are finding unity. They are beginning to work together. They are holding each other's hands. They are finding consensus. And we cannot afford to have anyone drive a wedge in that move towards unity. Let us strengthen our structures. Comrades, that is why we need to work together as an alliance, leading to recovery of our economy, the strengthening of our movement, the consolidation of our structures, and forging the unity that we need to have as we move to the 2019 elections, to victory, to a decisive victory that is going to make sure that indeed we do put an ANC-led government once again in the union buildings. Siyabasaba na. Niyabasaba na. Let's go and get them, comrades. Mandla!